What's up, everybody? Live. It is Wednesday. Feels a little bit like a Tuesday. It's going to be off all week, but welcome into the Wednesday edition of Market Movers. Justin, good afternoon. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. It looks like, we have two postponed games already this afternoon in the MLB. We have a great slate of NBA games, though. I'm very excited for 4 Game 5s tonight. Embiid, I think, was just ruled out, so we got a lot to go over, even with a short baseball slate.
Yeah, definitely a lot to go over. Do you guys want to do the NBA first today? If you're watching, make sure you drop a comment in there if you're watching. You want to see MLB first or NBA first? We'll kind of let you guys decide which way we go as I get some stuff pulled up here. Just finished a little golf videos on CBS Sports HQ, so I got to get back into non-golf mode for a second.
And I just got my internet to work and was able to make sure the show actually happened. So I also am sort of setting up here. But it looks like the MLB is winning, but it looks like both
I think we hit NBA. Yeah, right, I think we hit the NBA first and then go through the MLB games, but we can give it a little NBA a little more time. We got time for both with all the postponements and everything. We're good to go. So
definitely, we don't start
with the first NBA game.
Okay,
yeah, we'll do NBA first. We got plenty of time before that.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I did improve my internet. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. All right. NBA, Wizards and 76ers. Obvious news, Joel Embiid not going to play. Interesting thing about this one is the total hasn't moved. I think that it's likely due to the fact that when it opened, we kind of knew Embiid wasn't going to play. I think everyone kind of assumed heading back there that they can handle this game without Joel Embiid, frankly. So hasn't seen any movement. I thought we still might see a little bit on the total, but it's sitting steady there at 230.5. Maybe going to see 229.5. Looks like William Hill's hanging 229.5. On the spread, that as the
consensus for sure.
229.5.
Yeah.
Okay. It makes sense coming down just a little. Sixers 6.5 or -5.5 at the open. They've moved to -6 to -6.5 despite Embiid being out. They were all the way up to -7 at one point. Do you have any thoughts on this one? Any interesting market data you've been tracking?
So it doesn't look like there's anything too crazy here. This one looks to be one of the more, balanced. The spreads are pretty balanced out there today. But this is one of the more balanced ones. I guess people are definitely taking the 76ers to win at -250 or so still. I think you can get it now. Yeah, it might be like -265 almost. So people aren't really worried about Joel Embiid missing this game. It seems like the narrative is Philly back at home should be able to handle their business. They almost came back and won Game 4 even after being down. So I do think it's Philly today. I don't know if I would take the 76ers to cover. I think it probably is a little closer than anyone thinks.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. As the Mac plays Frisbee once again. Okay, good. We're unfrozen. Way too many tabs running. Yeah, I think that if I had to play this game, I would have been on the Wizards. I would have loved to have it at +7. 5.6 is the median number in the simulations, which kind of makes sense. It implies that the market was correct at the number that it opened at.
Right.
If you got 7, go for it. If you enjoy a coin flip and want to sweat, I think you can play the Wizards at this point. But Davis Bertans is not going to play. That is, someone mentioned that in the comments at the same time. Yeah, that part it's not insignificant. That's for sure. They're going to extend minutes to everyone. Obviously, it's win or go home at this point for them. You're going to see 42 minutes from Westbrook. You're going to see the minutes from Beal. Rui Hachimura is going to play 40 plus minutes again in this one. I think that the question as far as whether or not they cover the spread, is he going to step up and play well again? We finally saw him get his first career technical foul. We've seen a little emotion and get, maybe that helps him break out of his shell just a little bit more, see him be a lot more aggressive in this spot. Obviously, literally nothing to lose here. So I don't hate the sprinkle on it. I think that the 76ers get the job done, but I'm definitely okay playing the spread, even if you're having to pay that 6.5 number.
Yep.
I have it about 5.5 in the Sims. So
I mean,
that's where I'm at on it.
it looks like the sharper money line side is potentially the Wizards. I mean, the money is obviously going to be on the favorite here. But yeah, someone asked on Twitter today, when I look at numbers, I tweeted out that sheet from the DraftKings Sportsbook about where the money is, what percent of the handle is, what percent of the bets are on each line. And, I was like, well, there's a lot of sharp money. And someone, adeptly responded, well, how do you know? What are you looking at? And so normally we're comparing the percentage of the bets to the percent handle. So when you see bigger bets on a side, you usually know, especially on a lesser favorite side. So an example would be, I suppose the Wizards money line, right, has 28% of the bets, but 32% of the handle. So that's just an interesting thing to look at and what is normally called sharp money.
Yeah. It'll be that. And then if you're using action, they do a decent job of indicating sharp money. And a lot of theirs also is literally from just tracking winning bettors, which is going to be another method. So that's how some of their stuff is derived from, actually tracking bettors who have a winning track record, which is why sometimes you'll see a sharp indicator on a game that just simply reading money percents and bet percents that you might think that the other side is being indicated as a sharp side. So always important to understand what you're truly reading is usually going to be the most important part of that. But generally there are trends that will indicate a sharp side for sure.
You want to use sort of both of those sources in a way and sort of weigh multiple things, right? You're not in anything. You don't want to just take the word of one place. I'm always skeptical of action because sometimes they'll list today they have 96% of the money on Utah on the money line, but if you go to what the DraftKings Sportsbook has, they only have 63. So, you kind of want to take things with a grain of salt, make sure you're not blindly trusting any one given source and verifying your takes on multiple data points.
Yep, for sure. Hawks Knicks. I know you'll have an opinion on this one for sure. Knicks are back home. Absolute must-win game. So, any thoughts here other than they've gone from -2 to -1? Definitely taking some action on the Hawks. Any thoughts?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. I'll try to keep it short here. I think they win tonight, first of all. I really would be surprised if they come out flat-footed and don't defend home court. It's my opinion that they could have won game one. They probably should have won game one, and they very likely lost the series in game one, right? They needed to defend home court. They clearly are, going to get outplayed in Atlanta. But tonight's going to be a contested game, and you might see the Knicks take it very personally that Clint Capella said he's sending them home. That doesn't really, or sending them on vacation. We are home. But I think it's going to be wild in the Garden tonight. I think everyone wants to win. I expect they get it done. I would be shocked. I think that they have the defense to get it done, and with the Garden behind them, I took a Knicks play as a fan, but yeah, that's definitely on my sheet tonight.
For me, it's going to be the over is going to be the look. 208. I know we expect them to kind of clamp down defensively, but I like the over here at this number 208. I make it 210.5 in my simulations, so. At this point, I'm comfortable with it. I do expect a very competitive game. Can obviously never rule out overtime in this one in the Garden. So I like this one at 208. I'm not super excited. Let's see where it's at. Make sure I'm still getting that same number at William Hill right now. Yeah, 208 -110. I like it there. I would lay off of it even at 209.5. But at 208, I like the total quite a bit. I think that's the strongest play in the game for me personally.
It's definitely it's by far the lowest total of the night, right? So this is sort of already lined up to be a defensive game. So you don't have to sit there and be like, oh, this is going to be a defensive game. It's going to be an under spot. No, Vegas is fully expecting this to be essentially it's projected to be 105 to 103, right? That is what Vegas is projecting tonight. Knicks, no. Yeah, sort of like that, pretty much. But a little closer, honestly. So I wouldn't really be running to the under. And you're seeing that in the data. You're gonna, he is gonna keep walking right to the paint. I don't disagree with you, but I just don't know if the auxiliary players, the role players from Atlanta, are going to be enough to, help him surpass what I hope to be a team effort from the Knicks.
Yeah, I think my concern and what I like for my concern against with Atlanta is they're going to have great 3-point shooting nights. There's going to be a high variance team. Trey's going to kick kick those passes out. Herter, Bogdanovich, Gallinari, like it's tough to keep them down for a whole series, which is I think what you're going to see, frankly, and what we have seen. But it's one thing that really helps me like the total more than anything in this one. But I cannot wait to see the crowd at Madison Square Garden, especially after the Capella comments. This thing is going to be fun. I cannot wait to watch this one for sure.
If it was 2-2, I'd probably be there tonight, but I am actually passing up on it. The tickets, there's just this small sinking feeling that as a Knicks fan, I know if I were to go, they'd lose. I'd rather sit home and not be there and be a little disappointed I wasn't there in person with a win than rather be there for a loss. So I'm sort of just hedging my bet a little bit here and saving myself the $600 because I don't, Anyway, next game on the NBA slate is Memphis Grizzlies, Utah Jazz. This one's going to be great. I mean, Jazz obviously look to be the heavily favored side. Are you going against the public?
It's definitely an interesting one. The interesting thing is Memphis has drawn some action back their way. 10.5 is where this opened. 9.5 is the current number. I think that if you're simulating games like I am, and really anyone that's modeling things out, you would know that 10.5 is too big of a number in this particular matchup still. That said, I don't know that I trust it. I think that the Jazz could very well, this could be a 4-point game until the final minute, and they're still going to cover that 9.5, depending on how the last minute of this game shakes out. But the Jazz are the better team, no doubt about that. But I think this number should be closer to 7, not 9.5. So Grizzlies with the points at 9.5, 10 if you can get it still somewhere where it opened 10.5. I think I feel pretty comfortable with that one, but it is the NBA. The Jazz are a very deadly team. If they're hitting the three, them winning by 25 is not going to shock anyone, right?
Nope. I mean, here's the thing. They have covered all 3 games with Donovan Mitchell, right? He's playing an important role for this team. He draws that, premier defensive eye in a sense, right? So I'm definitely not going against him. I don't think there's an accurate money line here. Jazz should close the series tonight at home. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked if the Grizzlies are able to pull up an upset. Can't speak. But yeah, I think if I had to take a side, I'm going with the points. I'm taking the Grizzlies. I think it's a little too big, double digits in an elimination game. It's hard to send teams home. We saw it even last night with the Celtics and the Nets. It just wasn't this huge blowout game until late. So again, like you said, it could very well go the Jazz way in the last couple minutes. So maybe if you want to play this, you take the Grizzlies first half spread. It might be a lot closer at halftime than it is towards the end of the game when the Jazz kick it into high gear and finish them off.
Yeah, I think that the other thing I would say at this point, I think that if you like the Grizzlies to cover this number, I think that the under is an okay look. If you think that, I think that if this game is going to sail comfortably over that total, I think it's going to be very difficult for Memphis to keep pace at that point. So I think those two are somewhat correlated. I think the Grizzlies plus 9.5 or more. Obviously would love to find a 10 if there's any hanging out there still, but that's really my only interest in the game.
It seems the public agrees with you that if it goes over, the Jazz are going to win. I mean, both are the heavily favored sides. It looks like that is the most bet on outcome. So, I could sit here and take a Memphis Grizzlies under parlay and you're going to, if the book wins, you win. But I'm not obviously not doing that. But that's an interesting way to look at it. I think, if you're gonna take the Grizzlies, you're probably gonna want to take the under because those two things are probably relatively correlated.
Yep. I don't hate the first half. 5.5. Obviously, would love to get it to 6, but just watch it, monitor it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty straightforward how you're playing that game if you're playing it at all.
Yep.
Other thing I'd like to stress, just because there's basketball on TV, you don't have to bet on it, right? We all want to. It's all fun, but if you don't have an edge, you don't have an edge. You do not have to force a play. Let's go to the last game, Mavericks and Clippers. +7 for the Mavs. Look, they won the first 2 games in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Clippers woke up, took the next 2 pretty easily. This one's sitting at 7.5 now. It's moved up. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I think, Clippers have obviously taken back momentum and exposed Kristaps Porzingis and the surrounding cast of Luka as not effective enough to take them down when they put their minds to winning the game. And, everyone gave Paul George a little bit of crap by saying, oh, we're not worried, but he's backed it up, right? They're right back home. They have, home court advantage is essentially back in their favor. They win tonight. It's a huge game 5. I think, 82.5% of teams win if they win game 5. So, it's put up or shut up time tonight. I think you do see them continue to roll hot. I think they've kind of figured out how to beat this Mavericks defense and maybe slow down Luka enough that they can do it. And obviously, if he continues to be a little bit off because of this injury, it's not going to help anyone on the Mavericks side.
Yeah, I think that if you like the Mavericks at all, even on that +7 number, I actually kind of the reverse of the Grizzlies game. If you like the Mavericks on the +7, I would strongly consider the over at 217. I think those two events are correlated, just like the under with the Grizzlies and the points. I think that if you like the Mavericks at +7, I believe Zach had that on the early edge this morning. I don't hate it. Like basic simulations are going to tell you that this game should probably be 6, 6.25, 6.5. My number's really close to 7. I think it was incredibly efficient. I do have about a 1.5 edge on the total. I'm a little skeptical of it with the Luka situation.
Yeah, I agree.
Not going to shock me at all if this Mavericks team loses by 20 tonight. So that's why I'm a little hesitant on it. But I will say that if you like the Mavericks on the +7, knowing that I have that number as an efficient number, but if you like it, I think that a equally good play, maybe a better play, is going to be taking that over at 217, as that number should be about 219.5, in my opinion.
Yep, I'm with you. I don't really see going the other way. It's just sort of what we've been talking about. But all right, so going to be a great night in the NBA. But as Mike just said, you don't have to bet at everything. You don't. I don't. I think I have one NBA play tonight. And it's the Knicks. But all right, let's move into baseball. We just had both the Phillies Reds game and the White Sox Indians games canceled due to rain in the area. We will be starting at 2:20 or in 18 minutes with the Padres and the Cubs. What are you making of this one? Anything catch your eye? I know this was a tightly contested one with the Cubs taking it yesterday.
Yep, I'll address this question first. So MLB DFS will only be for the main slate today. There is no afternoon action with games being postponed and everything. I only typically play the main slate. So typically 90 minutes before lock is when that's going to go up. So Cubs, massive sharp side in the market again today, just like they were yesterday. They got the victory yesterday. I needed 5 to 6 cents more of movement, as I talked about here on the show. Unfortunately, missed that play. One of those scenarios where it's like maybe you should just be playing all of your little leans anyway, but that's something we'll address and cover later. But once again, very clear sharp side, have moved from -109 to -125, despite 68% of the action coming in on the Padres. Makes a lot of sense for me. I'm always nervous picking on this lineup. However, the weather is the big thing to talk about here. The air density is not bad, but everything else is indicating a strong underplay for me. The market has reacted in that way as well, moving from 7.5 down to 7. As far as the strikeout total on Alzolay, I love it. I love him. I think he's one of the best younger starting pitchers in the league right now. I'm just always cautious with a lineup like the Padres here. Obviously, The reason why this is the sharp side, the reason why we've seen some of the movement, it's a little delayed reaction to Fernando Tatis being, injured again. It is a very watered down Padres lineup once again. It always is when he's out, but that's why I don't hate the strikeout prop total. I don't have a big enough edge on it to get there, but if you like him, like if I liked him and went in and made the manual adjustments that my head wants to make to the model, then yes, I'm easily playing the over 5.5 here. Like I think he's easily better than that number. The issue for me is I use a lot longer time frame. I use a lot of different metrics, and the number is actually quite efficient. But my head and my heart definitely say over on the strikeout total, not over on the game.
Yeah. I was about to make sure we were clarified on that. No, it definitely looks like it can be an under game. I'm interested in how the Padres have been in both of these losses. The Cubs have beat them twice, right? So yeah, the Padres could be in trouble, but how have the strikeouts looked? I mean, let's take a look. Yesterday, you had probably only about 8 the whole game. So that's pretty low. And again, I do think Azalea is a great young pitcher. I do think that he should get the job done. But personally, I'm not a big pitcher prop guy. I don't usually dive into the numbers. It doesn't make financial sense for me to bet them when I have other more efficient bets I can make. So anyway, I'm definitely
they're just juiced.
Yeah, they're juiced.
Player props are just juiced like crazy.
Yeah, you gotta, especially if you don't have access to like the big sports books like I do, it's a little tough. But nothing too crazy standing out here. Obviously, there's a little bit of maybe wind action. Or for this one, the wind is blowing in around 7 miles an hour, so we might see a little bit of help keeping a fly ball or two from that might be out on the warning track. We don't ever mind that. So look, we'll keep watching this one. I'm not exactly playing it. I do have an underplay later in the day, but this is one that I do think I like. If I had to take it, that's how I would play it.
Yep. Last note on it. All the weather data, despite a relatively decent air density index, the wind and some of the other metrics included in that indicate that this is probably a pretty good spot for the under. And then no Fernando Tatis, no Chris Bryant. Arguably 2 of the top 3, maybe the 2 best home run threats in the game. But certainly there's a lot of home run threats in there. But removing Chris Bryant and Fernando Tatis from these lineups is not insignificant.
I'd happen to agree. So, all right, next game on the list, I do believe the Arizona Diamondbacks and Mets are playing a day game. This is the final day game. What do you make of this one? You're laughing over that.
What I make, I'm laughing just because we've seen this every day for, it seems like a week. It feels like the Diamondbacks have been at home for a week, right? But
yes.
There's a sharp group out there somewhere that continues to hit the Arizona Diamondbacks every single day, no matter what. There is a sharp group of bettors betting on the Arizona Diamondbacks every day. Open plus 105. Now they're down to minus 115. Very clear sharp side in the market. 55% of the action coming in on the Mets. Chief doesn't approve of it either.
No.
It's interesting,
I'll bark
right?
at that a little bit if you want. But it's just, I think they got it yesterday, a 6-5 win. But I think that there's probably a decent reason today. Again, you do have the Mets. No one's going to sit around and tell you that you need to respect the Mets offense today. The over doesn't look to be the heavily favored side. So I would call it a contrarian play at first look. I'm really pretty hesitant at taking the Mets on a line over when they've been so bad at scoring whenever they're favored. The books have been so bad at calling their games in terms of over-unders. So I don't know. I think you're gonna be betting on Arizona carrying that over. So if I really wanted to take it, I'd probably play the Cardinals team total over before I played the Mets as a part of it, personally.
Diamondbacks here. The Arizona Cardinals are in the NFL, Justin. I'm just fucking with you. Anyway, the thing that I will notice, we've talked about it a lot. be careful when you're betting totals here and in Texas. The roof
Yeah.
is going to be closed today in Arizona. There and in Texas a little more so, but even here in Arizona, the roof being closed is worth about 7/10 of a run. It's worth over half a run. You've seen the market adjust to that as well. The news that the roof was going to be closed was released. Total dropped from 8.5 down to 8. I think I'd have to check the weather there today. Let me see if I have my weather data. I'm wondering if this is simply a move by the Diamondbacks to help. I mean, it's hot, right? It's 105 degrees
105.
or 99 degrees, but it's still, partly cloudy, 0% chance of precipitation, no humidity. This is purely a move, mostly by the Diamondbacks to try and help Madison Bumgarner on the mound, frankly.
Probably.
So something to consider, something to watch for. When you're betting here in Texas, check the motivation. Usually in Texas, it's just weather related when they close, but in the desert here, sometimes they are sneaky about closing the roof to help a starting pitcher when they want to.
Yep. I'm with you. I mean, again, Bumgarner has been having a decent season, right? I mean, everyone knows he probably threw that faux 7-inning no that he didn't get credit for. He's put like 2 miles an hour on his fastball this year, and it's really helped his resurgence. And when you can put your stuff past hitters like that, you add a little extra onto it, especially at this part in your career. It's going to help you a lot because his command has always been good. He's always been a relatively sharp commanded pitcher, and to somehow add extra speed in like year 7 is pretty crazy. So good for him. Glad to see him going well. I'm probably going to be on the Cardinals with the sharp group, and I'd probably play Diamondbacks. I'm going to be on the Diamondbacks. I'm playing the Cardinals game later, so I think it's just stuck in my head. But I'm going to be on the Diamondbacks today if I had to be, and I'd definitely take their team total. That's probably the premier way I play that game. I'd go for their team total, and it's the Diamondbacks.
Yes, Diamondbacks. All right, Rays Yankees. Next one on the board. Yanks finally got the W last night as the sharp side for, I believe, the 3rd consecutive day. They finally came through and got a victory. I believe it was a Clint Frazier walk-off that got it done for him. Now we're tracking sharp side on the Rays tonight. I don't know if it's there's obviously a group out there that really wants to back McClanahan. I personally think that this is a spot that McClanahan could blow up in. It's not the easiest task for him, in my opinion. I'd love to get your thoughts on it, but I kind of like the Yankees. I will say that I'm not comfortable laying much with the Yankees at all. So I think that if I had to play this one, I think my favorite way to play this Yankee game is going to be on the run line, -1.5, plus 150. I think that number at plus 150 offers a touch of value.
I mean, I watched a lot of that game yesterday. One of the plays that I personally took from the show was that over. We talked about it. I was like, you know what? Looking at the numbers, this looks good. This feels nice. I'm going to take that over 7.5. So I'm sitting there. I'm chatting with a couple of my buddies. A bunch of us are Yankee fans. I live 20 minutes, 30-minute drive from the stadium. And, of course, we're sitting there at 3-3. I'm like, oh, guys, I told you over 7.5. I knew, like, we're here at 6-6, 3-3. We got this. And, of course, we go to extras at that score. And it's just it makes me hesitate on anything with this Yankees offense right now. It's hard. I can't bet on them. I refuse to play them. I understand maybe taking the over, but again, I'd probably want the Tampa over today. I don't know why. I don't have too much analysis on this. I usually don't analyze Yankee games. I find I cannot do so without bias, so I leave it alone.
Fair.
I don't like them. I'll bet against them too often.
Yep. I just think the only way for me to play it, which it kind of makes sense, the over, but I think the Yankees on the run line is the only way I play the game. I obviously have not made that play. Just telling you, if I had to play the game, that's the way I would play it. Next game I have already played. That's going to be the Twins and the Orioles. And what do you know? I'm going to have another half run of value on this one. So I bet this at 9.5 minus 110. It is rapidly approaching 10. It's 9.5, I believe, minus 120. Nope, it's already 10. William
Really?
Hill, it is now over-unders up to 10, minus 110. So I got a full half run on the minus 110 so far on this one. I mentioned it on the early edge. If you haven't watched that, obviously, go do so. Let's see. Do I still have my notes up here? Dobnak, 324 actual, 391 expected weighted on base average. Makes him 268 out of 277 qualified pitchers. Matt Harvey, we've talked about his struggles. This is still a top 10 ballpark in Major League Baseball. Positive VMIs for both teams. Great air density index. Wind blowing out at 11. All of the things. That's why you've seen the market react after I bet it. 10 is the appropriate number. 10.2 is the simulation number for me, but loved getting it at 9.5. Any thoughts?
I'm with you. Something that I saw on Twitter this morning, someone asked you, like, how much would you value that run? And everyone was asking you, oh, would you play it here? Would you play it here? And I think it's always good to just touch upon what our philosophies are and how we sort of approach things. And I know you said you'd much rather get 10 at plus money than take the 9.5 at minus like 130, which is available on some books. And again, that has a lot to do with your projected simulations and the distribution of outcomes and how we feel that, okay, you're very likely to get that 10th run. And so we'd rather push at plus 100 than we would take a risk to lose at minus 130 because they lose on the same condition, right? They have the same loss condition, 9 or less. And that's it. And then this comment here from Edward is actually true. I try not to tweet about it too much and be like, oh, people are like, oh, how does it move so fast? And why does it move so fast? But there's a real reason. And it's because sharp bettors who win often and have a following of people, books understand that there's going to be money coming in after their accounts betted, after they tweet it, blah, blah, blah. And so there can be reactions. And so that the book solidifies their own position. That's the business.
Yep. Yeah, it's smart business. So I'll be the first to admit when I say that, like, obviously I get a lot of closing line value. I would say 60% of it is due to just being on the correct side. And maybe as much as 40% of it is due to the following that I have and the action that we're taking. But that's essentially the reason why it's called market movers. It's going to move. You watch. That's why you see almost all of my plays are getting some sort of movement. It happens, but only maybe 20% of the time at most is a play moving in the opposite direction of something that we end up playing. And it's just good business on the part of a sports book, right? If you know that I'm releasing a play, you know that the following is going to blindly follow and play whatever it is we say. It would be dumb to not shade it 5 to 10 cents instantly, right?
Right.
Guarantee you I would if I was running the book.
Yeah, they mitigate their losses, right? It's almost the exact same reason we try to play lines early, that they try to listen to experts quickly. So, definitely agree with you. Going to add on that, it's even more pronounced in smaller markets. So like the guys who do all the prop bets, like sometimes they move a whole point the minute someone like Prop Stars who's just joined the sports line team in the last month, when he drops a prop, man, if you aren't there in 3 seconds, you're probably not getting the same line he is. And it's just because they know he drastically controls the population of bettors on that line. It's not just about betting in general. It's about, okay, our handle on this bet comes from a distinct percentage of this one person. So the moment that they can sort of figure that out, they're going to try to profit or mitigate losses the best they can.
Yeah, it makes total sense, especially in the prop market, as there's just the liquidity is not the same as some of the other markets. Question here: do you wait for lineups to come out or have a play the day before? The answer is mostly somewhere in the middle. There are occasions where we'll grab a total, for me personally anyway, a total the night before if I'm looking at weather trends, looking at where games open. But generally speaking, I'm locking most of my plays in between. On the East Coast time, I'm in Central Time Zone, but we'll just use East Coast for reference. I'm locking most of my plays in between 7 and 9 a.m. which is going to give me the best balance of getting close to an opening number, giving me very accurate weather information, and still having a relatively strong grasp on who is potentially going to play and not play based on what we've seen the night before and any potential early news that I can get. So for me, it's between 7 and 9 a.m. If you're not betting it by 9 a.m., you've likely missed it and are taking a hard stance on your data and betting at the close, but not much in between those two.
Yep. I mean, that's the hardcore way to play it, right? Like when you are, as Mike, and I guess I am too now. I don't really necessarily consider myself it, but I haven't been doing it nearly as long. But Mike's a professional bettor, right? And so when he does this, it's with a formula, it's with this approach to understand when the lines allow for the most capitalization on his model, right? And we talked about it a couple times, also only spent a brief moment on it, but like that window when it opens is usually the best way to beat the book. And then the last couple of minutes before it closes is the best way to beat the public, right? Is so to take advantage of whatever movement has happened during the day. And if your projected lines don't agree with it, that's usually the best time to grab it. So usually one or the other for people like Mike who play this as their livelihood.
Yep. And the other thing I would mention on that, like if it was, I do play it as a livelihood. I obviously have many revenue streams at this point, general. But right. But if it was truly about maximizing profit, if it was truly about all of those things, I would be betting overnight the second that they open many, many, many times. However, I'm also obviously creating content. I'm very transparent with everyone about everything. If I were to go try and bet those lines the second they came out and even share them with a little bit of the following on the Discord server, those lines would essentially be totally ruined, and creating content like this, like the Sports on Early Edge, other things like that on those individual plays would be a lot harder. That's just an unfortunate reality of it. When we do it, that's why it's called the Early Edge. That's why it's there. It is the best and most appropriate time to maximize it for everyone, but also goes to the point with like you see me bet one unit which is for me is 1% of the bankroll. Like obviously my bet sizing, if I was truly trying to maximize profit, would be scaled to my implied edge on the game based on the simulations, but I don't go that deep anymore. I don't go through that process anymore with everyone. So
yep, I'm with you. I've learned from the best at some level, right? So all right, next game on the slate today. We just talked about the Yankees, talked about the Orioles,
Marlins, Blue Jays.
Yes. So we just saw this yesterday. Blue Jays took this one. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hammered a home run that was the difference maker. This kid's gonna be fun to watch. I'm very excited to have him in the league, man. What a talent he is. I hope the Blue Jays keep him, or maybe I don't, but they should. For sports integrity.
He's not going anywhere.
Right.
He's not going anywhere.
You got to respect him, and I hope the Blue Jays are smart enough to keep him around. This game probably has the biggest wind factor in terms of the over today. We have an 11-mile-an-hour wind blowing out of the stadium. I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at Camden. That'll happen. But okay, this one does not have that much wind. Please disregard. But yeah, nothing too crazy here. Miami again has like some decent VMI, but they did yesterday, and it clearly didn't matter. My guess is Toronto Blue Jays, just a better team up and down here today, and I believe that they have the kid Manoah, right? Is he going today?
He is. That's the reason why you're seeing the movement. He looked good in the first start. Everyone's very excited about him. Now gets to face a Marlins team. Is this move warranted? I mean, we don't have a large enough sample size, in my opinion. I think it looked great. I think it's fine to take the over on the K prop. It's fine to get excited about a young prospect like this. You can call him a prospect. You don't have to, whatever you want to call him. But it's to the point where it's only going to go up. I think that if you're interested in it, if you're grabbing the Marlins at some point at say plus 160 or more, I think that more times than not, you're probably going to find some profit there in that, but not one that I'm going to be playing, not one that I feel great about. Also not laying the minus 155 with the Blue Jays. So you want to attack Manoah. I think that his K prop, which was a very reasonable 5.5, is probably the way to go.
Yep. I'm with you. And I'm not really touching anything else on this one. I found today's market to actually be pretty dang accurate. So I only have one play, you only have two plays, and both have sort of adjusted. So we've
Yeah,
kind
both
of
have already
found,
moved.
yeah, mine hasn't really, but I just don't think people are looking at it too much, which is fine. But we'll get there in a couple games. Talking about your next play, you talked about it on the early edge. We won't spend too long on it. Washington, Nats, Atlanta. You hit it yesterday, and I can't imagine you're not going to hit it today. I missed it by half a run the day before, so like there's reason we like this, right? There's reasons that both of us keep coming to this park, keep coming to these pitchers, keep coming to these lineups. This is a great place to just take it over because they just have lineups that can hit. They have players who can smash the ball. You have studs on both sides and at-risk pitchers too. So I'm with you, man. I'm glad that I got it in where I did. I could see it going at 10.5, especially if we keep talking it up.
Yeah, I doubt it hits 10.5. I think it could hit 10 like minus 115, minus 120. I'd like to see that. But I got this one in 9.5 minus 110. Got a little more down on it at 9.5 minus 115. I saw the question in here earlier. Do we double down when there's if the total keeps dropping? Not necessarily. There are some instances where I will end up with more than a unit on a game. But it's got to be a big model edge for me. It's got to be a spot that I really like, but very rarely do I. I think it's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. I think it's going to come down to a matter of how disciplined are you with your bankroll? What are your goals? All of those things.
Yep.
Right? It sounds annoying to hear, but it's the unfortunate truth. I bet this one early. It's up to 10. I got a half run on both the games. Feel very good about it. Don't hate taking either one of them at 10 just because, again, you're not adding the loss condition from that. I would not lay any juice really at all on the 10s. I certainly would not play it at 10.5 where you add the loss condition. I don't think we need to spend much time there. I think all of you now at this point watch the Sportsline Early Edge. I guess I'll take the next 10 seconds to say if you're on Twitch, hit the subscribe button and you can come join us on our Discord server. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button there. At least get the notifications, know when we go live. If you're watching on Twitter, you already know everything. So not much to add there.
Thanks. No, but yeah.
Twitter is a collection of the smartest minds in the world.
Yep.
You already know it all if you're on Twitter.
At the same time, though, I mean, I shout out Twitter. It's definitely one of my favorite combinations of everything that social media can offer that's good without too much of what makes it kind of crappy. But Twitter's changed my life, man. What would I be without Twitter here? It's kind of crazy. I definitely appreciate Twitter a lot. I don't think I'd know Mike without Twitter. Yep. So power of these tools, man. But all right. Leaving us to the next game, we have the Red Sox and the Astros. Astros has been taking this from them, man. I mean, if you're sitting there as a Red Sox fan hoping, oh man, can my team win it all this year? Good luck getting out of the East. The American League. I'm just, the crossover today is really great. It's really great. I'm sure I'm gonna have to make sure that everything I write today is triple checked for errors because I'm gonna call someone the Arizona Cardinals again. But no, the Astros have really been taking it to the Red Sox and definitely coming out of the AL. This looks like the team to beat. I'm a little worried as a Yankee fan. I'm a little worried as anyone in the American League watching how they just crush the ball and are beating good teams. I know there's some stats on Nick Pivetta. He's been very effective. He's been a good pitcher for them. But I'm staying the heck away from this one, man. I don't know. Any thoughts on it?
Not a ton of thoughts on it. You see these games tighten up, but I haven't seen any market movement. It's just holding steady right there. The Red Sox listed as the sharp side. I totally get it with their offense. Anytime you're getting them plus 130 against a left-handed pitcher, they are built to hit left-handed pitching. However, I don't feel great about it. So if I had to play it there, that's where I would play. I prefer the roof to be open. It's obviously not. That's definitely going to impact run scoring environment overall. Not extreme like Texas or Arizona, but still 0.3 of a run or so is what the weather with the roof being closed is worth there. So that's why you see this total come in maybe a little lower than your mind might want it to be when you see the collective offense that's on the field. But overall, it's a very efficient game for me. So I'm out.
I'm with you. Cool.
Yep.
Very efficient for sure. All right, continuing
Rockies.
on. Yeah. So this game was fascinating yesterday. It had 5 runs, one of the lowest totals at Coors this year. Rockies continue to be a much more formidable team on their home field. It's crazy. They're above 500, and they've won all of 4 games outside of the stadium. So I know that our guy Larry is on the Rockies today. I'm definitely with him. I definitely like this play. I'm sprinkled a little bit in a tail. I can't see the Rangers, who are actually almost as bad on the road, fending off the pitching matchups today. And again, I'm the biggest fade Jordan Lyles supporter ever. The man just has an awful fastball and already doesn't have any movement on his pitches. And now any little bit that there was is going to be even less in the thin air in the Rockies. I mean, the air density is 43. 43. We see every other air density at 60 or above. I cannot hammer this home enough that 43 air density it's you can't boil pasta water properly in Denver. You can't. Things.
The only caution there is they do have a humidor for the baseballs that they store them in. But
but that doesn't impact the way the ball spins.
It does. Well, not in theory.
The air,
no.
Right?
Yeah, not in theory. It will impact the flight of the ball and how much it's going to travel, but it's still, even with all of that, it's not going to play like a worse environment than, say, Atlanta, where you're going to see an air density of 59 to 60. But it is something to note that they do have the humidor.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That impacts the weight of the baseball almost, right? So it keeps it from being too light and dried out almost, in a sense, and then they clobber it even further. So they essentially try to keep it a little bit more dense, as though it is being played as a ball at another field that it would be. But again, I usually take into account the air that the ball's flying through a little bit more. Now, I would love to see what happened if they weren't in a humidor. I'm sure the totals would be 13 and it'd be a great time. But again, it's almost unfair in terms of just how easy it is to rack up stats at Coors Field. And look at Nolan Arenado's first couple of years in the league. Dude was killing it. Now he's still great. He's still great. But some of those extra base hit numbers are just never going to be the same.
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts on this one other than the Rangers track as a sharp side for me. A good 10 to 15 cents of movement, 70% of the action on the Rockies. Total has come up from 10 to 11. So if you like seeing that data, I would be okay with the total, I think. But overall, I have no play on the game. I'll maybe watch part of it. Probably not. There's a lot of basketball on tonight. But
there's a lot of basketball.
I might pretend to care about it for a little bit. We'll see.
I think if I really had to play it, I'd probably sprinkle on a first 5 under, just because it's really contrarian, and I think that Lyles might actually be able to keep them within the range of the Rockies not blowing it themselves, and you could see the Rangers not be able to do much until the Rockies bullpen comes in. If the starter for the Rockies, who actually isn't all that bad, his name isn't coming to my brain in this very single moment.
Senzatella,
right? He's not that bad. He's not that bad, especially at
he's been accustomed to pitching in that environment now.
Right. So
there's
I
a
don't know.
reason
I
he's
could
on the
see
staff.
a 4-1 lead for the Rockies after 5, and I do think that the first 5 line is 6.5. So that's a lot of leeway for the first 5 innings. If you believe in Senzatella, I don't know if I can say it, that's not a bad line. First 5 unders are actually relatively profitable at the stadium. I think I could pull up the numbers from OddsShark. They do a great first 5 report every week, but it's been profitable. Wouldn't hate it.
Yeah. 2 games left. Do you want to hit the next one? I think this is your favorite game of the day, probably. St. Louis Cardinals on the road against the Dodgers. Carlos Martinez, Walker Buehler on the mounds. Walker Buehler and the Dodgers all the way up to minus 226 favorites. Cardinals plus 204. Total has been bouncing between 7.5 and 8, I believe. Maybe it was just 7.5 at the very open and has been sitting at 8. I know you have some thoughts on it, so let's hear it.
Yep. So I'm loving that we're getting it at 8. I think there's a reason this game opened at 7.5, and I'm super happy to get it almost close to like even money right now. We're getting like -105 for the under 8. I'm really not 100% sure what the market's seeing. My guess is they're assuming that the Dodgers are going to be the problem rather than the Cardinals. If I could choose to narrow it in, I'd probably take like a Cardinals under as a team. I see this game staying pretty quiet. Walker Buehler has been, phenomenal. He's just throwing the ball well. He's been able to, lock down opponents. He gets through 6 innings in every game. He's only allowed more than 2 runs in 2 starts. So you're basically like the expected result is 1 or 2 runs going into the 7th for the other team. So, and then if you trust the Dodgers bullpen, which actually gave up the loss last night in the top of the 9th, if you trust them to bounce back, I really think this is a great spot where the Dodgers could be up 4-2, even 5-2. Well, 5-2 actually. Yeah, that works. 5-2 works. And we cruise in just below this line. I think my final score prediction is probably 5-1 for the Dodgers. So I'm definitely taking this under, and I don't want to lay the juice. I would understand, taking a Dodgers run line play if you wanted to play them. It probably hits, but I'm going under today. That's my play of the day.
Yeah, I definitely lean in that direction with you. I think it's the clear sharp side, despite the market moving at the very, very open on that one. Last game on the board. What is it? As my computer plays Frisbee again.
Oakland,
A's,
Seattle.
Mariners.
Yeah.
Mariners tracking
what
as the sharp side a little bit. I don't know that I have a ton of interest other than I will say that Sean Manaea has been largely disappointing.
Yes, he has.
For the Oakland A's so far. I think that in a normal situation, this game would be literally, even though on the road he would be -160. I think we're getting 15 cents of value because of how bad he has been.
Yep.
Having said that, because I have my 2 plays in already that I have the big edges on, I have a slight interest in edge there, but I'm not going to play it. What I'm going to elect to do is use Sean Manaea in daily fantasy tonight. I think that this is a good get right spot for him. The price point is low over there, especially on FanDuel. That's how I'm going to get exposure to it. If you want to play it on either side, I'm not going to hate you for it. But for me, it's the very clear only option. So
I'm with you. I mean, Oakland A's destroyed them late last night, put up that huge rally. I'm staying away. So I think it's going to be a good day. I think there's a lot of action. There's a lot to watch today. I don't think you should ever force bets. So, take what you can, find your edges, play what, you feel has like a real reason that like the book could be a little off in their predictions and the lines. I'm not ever going to be forcing something onto my plate just to get some action on a game. Again, Chris Flexen, I tried to pick on him last time he pitched and he actually showed me wrong. So if he's on again at Safeco, which is actually called T-Mobile Park right now, it's changed from Safeco. At T-Mobile Park, I do think that it could be an interesting place to take the Mariners, but again, I'm staying away probably like as far as I can.
I got to say, knowing that Flexen's been decent at home there and the A's here, like I don't hate the lean on the under. And then one last comment, just it's the way my brain works. I have to think that like stadium naming rights was one of the better investments if you did that over like between the 90s to late to mid, in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Like it'll always be known as Safeco. It'll always be known as AT&T Park. Like you get so much further brand equity, even though you're no longer paying for it now. Because for many of us that have been doing it, like it is Safeco Field, right?
Boom.
It is still right for me AT&T Park, right? Like it's just always going to be there. So shout out to those who had the foresight to make those deals for their respective brands.
Yeah, I'm going to go over to Safeco. But I'm sure Seattle Mariners and it sticks with fans too, right? Like,
for sure.
I mean, if they had changed Yankee Stadium to a new name, everyone would still call it Yankee. I mean, it took me like a decade to start saying Citi Field instead of Shea Stadium, right? So that thing has been gone forever, but I can still like close my eyes and see it on the drive out to my grandmother's at Far Rockaway. So like, certain things just don't leave. So yeah, stadium naming rights, man, get it going. We thank goodness we don't have Barstool Stadium in Buffalo, right? No one would ever let that go. But that almost
all right,
happened.
guys.
The Bon Jovi Bills. But all right, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yep, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit those subscribe buttons. Come join us on Discord. You won't regret it.
No, you won't.